Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Gabby Cruz was 18 and loved her life more than anything else. She was very girly as much as she could be. When she was relaxing with her boyfriend George one night, things went wrong and her life changed. She was wearing a tan sweater and a skirt that stopped above her knees. George was wearing his brown pants and his sports jersey. Gabby turned around when she heard laughing and saw that her little brother was looking at them from the top of the stairs while they were sitting on the couch in the living room. She went and got a pillow and threw it at him. "Tony, you spoiled kid!" Gabby yelled. "Mom!" Tony is again watching George and me. "Tony." Jane Cruz said this as she walked into the room wearing a tank top with red and white stripes and blue shorts. "How many times will we have to do this? Will he get in trouble again?" Gabby spoke up. "In Club Paradise?" she asked. "His room is better than your dad's and mine because he has his own TV, game system, and internet. I think you have basketball practice, so why don't you go with George and let me cool down your sister? We need to take action." Gabby said this as Jane went to the safe on the wall and took something out. "What is it?" Jane said that it was the medallion of Zulo. "It was a wedding gift from my best friend Mark. I thought Mark was my dad's best friend," Gabby told me. "Now he is," she laughed. "On the day of our wedding, this thing made Jane and I switch bodies. We didn't want to tell anyone and planned to switch it back after the vacation. I couldn't imagine going back to being Steve Cruz after I got pregnant with you. So Jane let me stay as her." "You want Tony's body to be mine," Gabby said as she came up with the idea. "If he lives in your body for a while, he might understand you better," Jane said as he gave her daughter the pendant of Zulo. "Consider it." She did give it some thought. That night, Gabby made sure that Tony was tired. He didn't think much of the idea of going to bed early after a hard day of basketball practice. "All set?" Jane asked as she and Gabby walked into Tony's room where he slept. "I think." Gabby said this as she felt sick at the thought of being in his body. Gabby touched the medallion to her brother Tony, and as she did, she saw her chest sink while Tony's grew. The size and weight of their bodies changed into each other. The last thing she noticed was that her pink nail paint had disappeared from her own fingers and toes and appeared on the new Gabby, who was sleeping in Tony's bed. The next morning, she screamed, "No!" Gabby and her parents were eating breakfast when Tony came running down the stairs and into the kitchen. He saw his parents and himself looking back at him. "How are you?" Gabby smiled and said, "How is my younger brother doing? Should I now say big sister? What did I do wrong?" Tony said this while putting around his body. "What did we do wrong?" "So you did it, right?" Tony said as he pointed his clean finger at the face he was looking at. "I don't know how you did this, but you did. I did it with help from my mom," Gabby said as she took the Zulo charm out of Tony's sleeping bag. "This magic thing made it happen. Now you know what it's like to be a girl. That means Gabby has to go to her summer job," Jane said as she took another sip of her coffee. "You made this happen to yourself. No matter what we did to you, you just kept bothering your sister." "But Mom," Tony started to say something, but when he saw how his parents were looking, he stopped. Jane took Tony to Gabby's room and helped him put on a bright pink summer dress with bra straps that went down to just above his knees. As Tony stood in front of a mirror, he saw that his dress was just like his nightgown. "Don't mix with it, honey." Jane smiled as Tony pulled on the dress's bottom to try to get it to go past his knees. "This is how a lot of people dress. You look great. Now let me teach you how to put on makeup, even though you're doing it yourself because you need to get used to it." "Yes, Mom," said Tony. "Now get a nice bag and these slides that go together." After the makeup was done, Jane said while giving her a hand, "Gabby has an appointment at the salon today, which is good news for you, Mom." "This makes me feel ashamed," Today said. They walked to the car. He saw his mother get into the car wearing a black and pink sweater, a floral pattern-pleated skirt, and black shoes. He did what his mother did, which included making sure that his shorts were straight. Mrs. Gallon said with a smile to Jane and her mother, "Gabby, it's nice to see you again." Mrs. Cruz, "It's nice to see you too." Jane said the same thing. Tony thought that everyone was watching him. Like everyone knew he was just a guy trying to be a girl. He watched as his fingers were dipped into a relaxing liquid and his fingernails and toenails were filed and smoothed. Then they fixed him up by giving his nails a new coat of paint and a shiny finish. Jane asked Tony, whose hair was in curlers and ready to go under the hairdryer, "How's it going?" Before she put Tony in the dryer, Mrs. Gallen had gone to answer the phone. "I can't believe how calm this makes me feel." Tony said that he was embarrassed to admit that he was having fun. "In a few minutes, you might not like it as much." Jane smiled and went back to reading her love story while Tony got his hair cut. When she was done, Mrs. Gallen put a wax on his body to remove all hairs. Pulling it off caused more pain than quickly removing a Band-Aid. In the afternoon, Jane took Tony to a nearby hotel. On the way there, she told him that he would be one of the maids for the afternoon and evening. He would have to do what the head of staff told him to do. "This is almost as bad as the ride I just got off of." Tony sighed as he went to his locker and found a pair of white sneakers and a pink dress. "So it makes sense that my mom chose pink ties for me to wear today." He found a pink bra to change into. Tony thought to himself as he started to clean his first room with a feather duster, "This isn't so bad." After that, the bed sheets were changed and the rugs were vacuumed while the guests were gone. This went from good to bad when he had to deal with bathrooms that smelled bad. He didn't understand how anyone could do something like that. The smell made him feel like he was going to pass out, and he couldn't wait to wash his outfit and his new body. Finally, his shift was over. Tony was so tired when he got home that he took his shoes off and rubbed his sore bare feet. His mother came and sat with him while holding a picture album. She opened it to a page with Gabby in a rainbow-colored dress when she was 8 years old. The chest and back were pink, while the shoulders and hips were yellow and blue. He then saw a picture of a younger Tony riding in a shopping cart while wearing a light blue dress with black designs and orange thong flip-flops. "What is it?" Tony spoke up. "Gabby usually soaks her feet in warm water after work while we talk about old times." Jane was happy. "Gabby used to dress you up and call you Tony with an I instead of Tony, but you were too young to remember that. She would act like you were her younger brother or sister." The next few weeks of work went on in the same way. When Tony's day off came, he put on a swimsuit with blue and white stars. He almost chose the yellow one-piece, but he thought he would look better in blue with his new body. "You look wonderful," George said as he hugged Tony. Even before they rolled into the water together, Tony could feel he really liked George. Gabby walked into the room. After 2 months, "Your time in jail is over, Tony," Gabby said. "Summer is almost over and I want to go shopping with my mom for clothes for school. Do you know where the medallion of Zulu is? I made sure that it was thrown away last week." Tony said this with a smile that spread across his red lips. "I really like George, and he liked me more than he ever liked you when you were in this body. But I don't want to be a gross boy for the rest of my life." Gabby said, "I'm almost crying. You can't do this and get away with it." "How will Mom and Dad going to believe you?" Tony asked. "It's your word against mine that we never swapped back." "Oh, I think she will." Gabby said this as Tony started to feel weird. Tony stood there for as long as he could, and then he felt even weirder. He didn't realize he was standing on his toes like a huge Barbie doll until his shorts fell down. "What's happening?" Tony asked as he felt change in his body. "I've been able to see how close you and George are getting," Gabby told him, "so I had Mom look up a spell that would change your body if you didn't change back when I asked. You can only wear skirts and dresses from now on. You will hurt yourself if you try to wear shorts or pants of any kind. You can also now only wear heels that are at least 3 inches tall. Still, this doesn't give you back your body." Tony said this as he put on a pair of shoes with a 4.5-inch heel and felt the pain in his feet go away. "Mom, what's the cost?" Jane asked. "I can see that you didn't go back." "Mom, he threw away the medal." Gabby was sad. "I will always look like a boy." Jane said, Now, dear. We'll find a way for you to go back to being a girl, I'm sure." 2 years went by. "God, I hate this," Gabby said, pulling at the neck of the tuxedo she was wearing. Tony is getting married to my ex-boyfriend in my body, and instead of a pretty dress, I'm wearing this monkey suit. Haven't failed to make you different again. I thought you'd be happy with your life as a boy." Jane sighed and said. As they left the clothing shop, Jane saw a store across the street that she was sure hadn't been there before. "Good morning, Mrs. Cruz." From behind the desk, a man in a bathrobe said, "I've been ready for you." Jane asked, "But how?" "I can do magic. What can I do to help you and your child?" Jane said with a blush that he wasn't her son. "She was my daughter until a spell went wrong. I found a potion that will turn her back into the person she used to be." "Just $500. Pricey, but if it makes the family happy, it's worth it," Jane said as she pulled out her checkbook and watched Gabby take the potion right there in the shop. The tuxedo turned into a sky blue sleeveless dress. His white socks turned into tan nylons, and his black shoes turned into black flats. She looked the same as she did when the medallion switched her and Tony, but she was 2 years younger. "I can't wait to see what Tony does when he gets back into his own body." Gabby laughs. "You are wrong. The potion wasn't meant to switch bodies. It just put you back to how you were before. Your older sister is still getting ready to marry this George guy, and you'd make a lovely bridesmaid." Tony looked in her purse and saw that her school library card had her new name on it. She smiled at the thought that the old Tony was now enjoying her periods and other things for the rest of her life. "Mom, let's go to the wedding." Tony and Jane quickly met the new Gabby in the back of the church in a room. Gabby looked at the edges of her nylons and garters to make sure they were straight. In the new world, the spell that kept Gabby's feet in high heels has turned around. "So, Tony, how do you feel about the new me and the fact that you always be the old me?" "I love it. I love being a girl. Life has never been better." The wizard was probably right. I guess this is better. Both of Jane's daughters hugged their mother, and just before the wedding march started to play, all of them were going to be happy in the end. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.